welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be talking about full coverage glam. I'm going to walk you guys through my full coverage glam tutorial. I'm also going to be giving recommendations as far as different products you can use if you don't have the products that I have, or if you want to use something else, or you want a cheaper alternative, you know, that kind of thing. I have a few different alternatives for some of the products, so definitely don't feel left out. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and without further ado, let's just get right into it. So my face is already moisturized, and I'm gonna go straight into primer. Now for your primer, you just use whatever primer works best for you, whatever targets your specific needs. There are so many primers out on the market. There's mattifying primers, pore filling primers, ones for redness. There's just so many. I really feel like priming is like painting walls. You have to prime before you paint, so you do the same thing with your face. I know a lot of people feel like, I don't really need a primer, but me personally, in my personal opinion, I feel like in the grand scheme of things, you definitely need it. So for me today, I'm gonna go in with two different primers. I'm gonna be using the Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer. Now this primer is super expensive for the full size version of it, which is what I have, but you also have the smaller version of this primer for just $20. And I'm also going to be using the Professionals, which is kind of like a throwback primer for my pore area. And I'm just going to be putting this product in my T-zone area, basically next to my cheeks and maybe a little bit in between my brows, and then the Tatcha everywhere else. For the Professionals primer, I really just like to press it into my skin. I don't like to rub it in. That way I know it's like getting into those pores and covering them up the way that I need it to. So now we're gonna move on to foundation. Now please don't kill me because they are high-end, but I feel like makeup in general is something I love to invest in, but especially my foundations, I definitely love to invest in those. So I do have a few higher priced foundations versus drugstore, but drugstore is still good. The two products that I'm going to be going in with are the Vanish Stick from Hourglass, and Hourglass just recently launched a new foundation, which I haven't got my hands on just yet, but I still love this stick foundation in combination with the NARS Natural Radiant Foundation, which is also very full coverage. Now, two drugstore alternatives to these, or just different options for full coverage glam drugstore foundations, are the L'Oreal Pro Matte foundation, which I absolutely love. This is an oldie but a goodie. And then you have a newer version, or a newer foundation on the market, which is the NYX Professional Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation, and I absolutely do love this for a drugstore foundation, full coverage glam. So I like to go in with the Vanish Stick first, and I just like to apply this just straight to my face, a couple lines on the sides of my cheeks, underneath my chin, above my lip, down my nose, and across my forehead. And then I like to take either one of these two brushes to blend it in. This is the Morphe M439, and this is the Jaclyn Hill JH03. If I had to choose out of the two brushes, I really do love the way the Jaclyn Hill brush works, so that's the one that I'm going to use today, and I'm just going to work this into my skin. So for the NARS foundation, I'm actually going to use a beauty sponge. This is the Morphe sponge, and I just put 2 pumps in the back of my hand, and then I like to just take the sponge and really press it into my skin. I feel like the NARS adds a little bit more luminosity and glow to the skin versus just using the Hourglass foundation stick. With that one, it's a little glowy, but it's also a little more on the satin matte side. So I like a little bit of glow, or I like a lot of glow, as we all know. So I definitely love to add this on top, not only to add more coverage, but also to add that glow. Both are really good for just about any skin type. However, NARS is a little bit more hydrating, but honestly, it's all about the primer as well. So if you want more of a matte look, then definitely go with a matte primer. So as you saw, I was like really pressing it into my skin with the beauty blender. That is key. Just make sure you're really pressing it into your skin. That way it's not sitting on top of your skin and giving it an opportunity to look and feel cakey. Both foundations are medium to full coverage, so you can definitely build it up with using one or both of them. But again, I like using both of them. I really love the way that both of them look together. It just really looks very healthy, glowy, and beautiful. So for concealer, I'm gonna go in with two different ones. You guys guessed it, I'm sure. I love to go in with one that's more my skin tone, and then also one that's a little bit lighter, because it not only does using a concealer that's your own skin tone give you extra coverage, but I just like the way the two work together. Now I do like to apply these at the same time and blend them in at the same time. When doing that, it allows them to work together better versus just layering it onto your skin, because you're putting one concealer on, blending it out, basically letting it dry while applying the second one and then letting that dry. To me, that creates more cakiness versus just them working together as if they were one. I'm gonna go in with the Born This Way Multi-Sculpting Concealer, and this is in the shade Warm Sand. And I'm also going to use my Holy Grail Tarte Shape Tape in Tan Sand. First, I apply the concealer that's more my skin tone, which is the Born This Way foundation, and then right on top of that, I will apply the Tarte Shape Tape. I'm also only applying both concealers under my eyes, and then for my T-zone area, I just use the Tarte. And I'm just gonna take my beauty blender. So once I feel like that's completely pressed into my skin, look at it. It just looks like an airbrushed finish, and it looks really good. I like to let that sit for a little bit, and then I will apply my powder. So I feel like my concealer has a little bit of time to sit, so that allows it to like crease or do whatever it is that it wants to do now that it's set. Now I can blend it out a little bit and then apply my powder. I'm going to be applying the Derma Blend Professionals Illuminating Banana Powder. I really love this powder. And I also love the translucent one that they have, but I feel like the banana powder is a little bit more illuminating and brightening, and I really want to brighten up my under eyes just a little bit more. But if you don't have that, you can also use the Airspun powder, and this is just translucent extra coverage, and I really like this for a drugstore alternative. This powder is just really finely milded, and it smells good. And it applies great, no flashback, and I absolutely love this powder. So I'm going to blend out with the same sponge that we used the first time, just to make sure there are no creases before I set, because you don't want to set your creases. That's like the worst thing you could do. And then I'm gonna go in with this Real Technique sponge, and I'm just going to set my powder. Anywhere that you put concealer, just set it, especially if you have oily skin, combo skin like me. You really want to make sure that you're setting any cream or liquid that you put on your face. I don't like to let my powder sit too long. Like some people let their powder sit for like way too long, in my opinion, but you know, to each its own. So I'm just going to dust off the powder now, because I feel like it's sat for long enough, and I feel like if I leave my powder on too long, then my face gets super dry, and I do not like the dry, tight feeling of my face. So we're just gonna wipe that bake red on off. So now I'm going to work on my cream contour, and for this I've been loving ultimately the Maybelline foundation stick in Cocoa, but that's pretty much ran out. So I did use this the other day and I did really like it. This is the e.l.f. cream contour palette, and I just like to use this lighter brown down here to just contour my cheekbones, my nose, my forehead, all that good stuff. So I'm just gonna apply this onto the areas that I want to cream contour, and then I will blend it out. For blending out my cream contour, I really love to use a sponge. Especially with this one, I feel like it just blends it in so much better versus using like a brush. And it's also helping to work that product in the skin, into the skin. Now I am gonna go in with powder again, and this time I'm just gonna carve out my cheekbone area right below that contour. So again, you really want to make sure that you're setting your creams and your liquids. So of course we cream contoured, so we're going to set it with some powder. I am going to be using bronzers to set my contour. I'm not going to go in with a contouring shade and then a bronzer shade. I'm just going to go in with the bronzing shade. So for my nose, I always love using the Hoola Benefit bronzer. I just love this matte bronzer, the way that it looks on my nose. I don't like anything too shiny on the sides of my nose. I do like to put highlight and stuff like that on the tip of it, but for bronzer, I just like it to be nice and matte. So I'm just gonna use this little e.l.f. concealer brush to just dip into there and then just kind of go where I put the cream contour. Now I'm not like a pro when it comes to contouring your nose, so maybe I'm doing it wrong, maybe I'm not, but this is just what I like to do. Now for the bronzer on my cheeks and on my forehead, I've been really loving this Chocolate Soleil bronzer from Too Faced. It's just really pretty and stunning, and it does have a little shimmer in it, so glow is just coming through. The JH02 brush from Jaclyn Hill's collection is a really good brush for bronzer, and I just love using this. Sometimes I'll use a smaller brush, it just really depends, but this brush is a really good brush to just like get it on there. For blush, I'm not going to use anything special. I'm just going to dip into this Anastasia Beverly Hills Blush Trio. I'm going to be using the shade Nectar, which is this one right here, for blush today. And I like to just use any kind of angled brush to apply my blush. And I just tap that onto my cheeks. Just press it in. You really want to press it into the skin. And then I also like to put a little bit on the sides of my nose to kind of create that sun-kissed glow, because who doesn't like that? Even if it's winter, it does not matter. Winter, summer, spring, fall. I'm always doing this. It's honestly crazy to me how much I've grown to love blush, because I used to just absolutely hate it. Maybe it's just because I know how to apply it better now, but in the beginning, blush was not my thing. So for the first highlight, I'm going to be going in with the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Hello Halo Liquid Highlighter. Now because it is liquid, I am going to be using a sponge, but even if it wasn't, even with a powder highlight, I like to at least make sure that I'm going over the highlight once I apply it. If I do with a brush, go over it with a sponge. That way it sinks better into the skin and it doesn't look like powder. It's just like sitting on top of your skin. So I'm gonna put a little bit of this onto my sponge directly, just the tiniest bit, and then I'm just going to tap that in the areas that I want to apply it, and then just really press that into my skin. So I'm going to be going in with another highlighter, and this is the Fenty Beauty Hustler Baby Kilowatt Highlighter. I absolutely love this highlighter from her. Out of all the highlights that I own of hers in my collection, this is my absolute favorite. Now, people have this misconception that in order to have full coverage glam, it needs to be matte, but that's so not true. You can have matte, you can have satin, you can have glowy, whatever you want to make it. Full coverage glam is just that, full coverage glam, but it does not mean that it has to be matte. So for me, I like a glowy full coverage glam, so I'm definitely going to stack up on the highlighter, and I'm gonna apply this to everywhere I applied the liquid. But of course, I'm gonna use my sponge again to dip into the highlighter, and I probably put too much, but it's okay. And then I'm going to tap it on the areas that I want it, because it'll help it really sink into the skin. So now we're gonna finalize everything by setting it with some setting spray. I'm just gonna be going in with the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. Now I really love this setting spray. The mist on this spray is just amazing. You can do like short sprays, or you can do one big long spray. It doesn't really matter, but I love the way it makes my face feel and how it just makes my makeup become one. I feel like when using a setting spray, it's kind of important, because it not only does it make your face look more beautiful or more softer, but it normalizes the skin and everything just becomes one. And if there's any remaining powder left on your face, the setting spray will definitely melt it into your skin and again, make it normalized and become one. Okay guys, so that is really it for this tutorial. I really hope you guys loved it. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to follow me on all my social medias. They will be linked down below. Also, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, post notifications on, and I'll see you in the next video or vlog, whichever one comes first.